I've covered the Jaguar XK at length here on the channel, from individual reviews to my own experience owning them, to rivals matches, to modifications, and for this particular video I wanted to condense down a load of that information into one bite-sized roadmap. This video's purpose is simple. It's to take you as a potential owner and buyer and point you in the better direction of which XK might be the best one for you, or at least a general idea of where you should probably look given your budget, given your driving style, given what you want from the car. And we're going to discuss 6 versions in particular, with some references to specials and different trims like portfolios, XK60s, dynamic Rs, etc, etc. But overall, we're going to be looking at 6. The 4.2, the 4.2R, the 4.2 RS, the 5 litre, the 5 litre R, and the 5 litre RS. Everything else is basically inspired by or based on one of those. Let's do it in chronological order, in a general sense, working our way up through the engines. First off then, we have the 4.2 XK, the base model. What kind of buyer should be looking at this one? Well, it's a 4.2 V8, 300 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 5.9 seconds, and one of the key advantages is its completely smooth, uncluttered beauty. This is where the X150 aluminium cars started, and as you can clearly tell, incidentally, I'm not going to be talking about the older XKs in this video. I may do so in a future one, but for now we are focusing on everything between roughly 2006 and 2014. So this is an ideal car for somebody who wants the look and the sound and of course the driving experience, but on a budget, crucially. The downside to it is the lack of power compared to some of the others. Some people do find it to be a little slower. That's down to you, of course, technically, and there is an even slower version, which I've never seen in the UK, a 3.5 litre V8 with 250 horsepower. I believe that was a US market car though, so that's kind of a curiosity, and I'd be interested in driving one of those. This one in the UK though is the entry point. So if you're just looking for the sheer beauty, the gorgeous sound, and of course kind of a modern day classic cruiser experience, then this is the one to go for. Then, of course, we have the one which I owned, which is the 4.2 XKR. This one, in my opinion, is the one for someone who's looking for the best overall value. In terms of what this offers, being high up on the tree, this was a genuine Aston Martin rivaling car at the time, and it still feels fantastic to this day. Crucially though, for its price. Because sure, the 5 litres are quicker, but you're going to be paying a lot more for them generally speaking, unless you go super high mileage to bring the price down, and then of course that makes the ownership experience potentially riskier in some cases. The 4.2R is just a fantastic all-rounder. 420 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds. It can go over the speed limiter if you need it to 170 miles an hour, especially if you de-restrict it. The looks are fantastic with the additional driving lights in the front bumper, of course the quad pipes on the back end. It's just a lovely looking car, it's very well set up, and of course, like the base model, continues the J-shaped shifter tradition, kind of an old-fashioned gear shifter, which, as I've said before on the channel, I'm a huge fan of because it just feels more satisfying to use, whereas the newer cars just have that kind of cylindrical little turning dial to select the gear, and it's just not as fun to use in my opinion. It's cleaner visually, but just doesn't have that chunky vibe that the older gear shifter has. So for me, the 4.2R is the best all-rounder, for its price especially. Few grand more than a base model, but kind of worth the difference. Next up though, we have my favourite one of all, the 4.2 XKRS. Super rare, 200 made, only finished in black, only one interior choice, unique wheels, carbon chin splitter all around the body, a larger rear diffuser, a ducktail rear wing, the same amount of power, interestingly, and not really a significant difference in weight, and yet it is quicker. The 0 to 60 is about unchanged, but the speed limiter is raised to 175, and in particular they focused on the handling. This is what I would describe as if you took an XKR and then gave it to ProDrive and asked them to make you the ultimate Jag. That really is what this one feels like. It's lower, it's more aerodynamically stable, it has significantly more downforce thanks to the body kit and the spoiler, and is more controlled and more composed through corners. Thankfully though, without sacrificing still the great interior, the great ride, and of course the great sound and performance that you'd already get on the R. The disadvantages of this one are twofold in my opinion. One, you're looking to pay realistically about 10 grand more for an RS over an R. That's if you can find one, because there are only usually 2 or 3 for sale at any given time in the UK, and you can pay as much as £35,000 for one of these quite easily, which could be double in some cases what an R will cost you. Mine, for example, which I bought in 2021, was £12,500 for a 95,000 miler, which they've gone up since then, but that was great value. And the second disadvantage is a less obvious one initially, but definitely one to bear in mind in terms of practicality, and that is the RS has, of course, as I said, the carbon fibre chin splitter all the way around, and you can easily rip that off when parking in, for example, a public car park. If you get too close to the curb, you could quite easily rip that chin splitter off. So it is a practicality thing that you will need to keep an eye on. Aside from that, though, wonderful car, and it is my favourite version of all XKs overall. To me, it's a perfectly balanced car that has just enough of everything and is that much more exclusive and feels just that much closer to being a supercar rather than a GT. Now, though, we are moving into the 5 litres. Now, the 5-litre XK base model, in my opinion, might be the single most underappreciated XK of all. Because for the 5 litres, if you're going to buy one, most people would probably just go for the R. I mean, if you can have 500 horsepower, why not just go for it? Why would you ever go for the base model? Well, that's kind of the thing. See, the base model is brilliant, and I've reviewed it, of course, on the channel. In my opinion, the base model 5-litre XK is one of the best all round. And the reason why is because it has the advantage of that 385 horsepower 5-litre engine, which is a vast improvement in terms of performance over the 4.2 base model with 300 horses, but at the same time, it's not savage. The 5-litre XK is a very refined, calm cruiser. Put simply, it takes everything great about the 4.2 XK and then makes it that much better. So it cancels out any downsides that that car has and makes it that much better. This is, to me, the best cruiser's XK because it has more power, better performance, 0 to 60 drops to closer to 5 seconds, which means it's properly quick, but at the same time not sacrificing the elegant looks, the elegant ride, and of course the overall class. So to me, this one is a very undervalued gem to look out for. If you are looking for savage performance, not so much, but if you're looking for a cruiser, an elegant car, a piece of art, then the 5-litre XK is worth a look. Then though, we have, of course, the XKR. The 5-litre XKR is probably for many people the one that they would really want, for obvious reasons. 5-litre, 500 horsepower, 0 to 60 around the 4.5-4.6 second region. They are properly quick, properly savage, and they do tend to cost a bit more. You're looking at about, say, 25 grand or so to enter the market for a decent XKR 5-litre, and these, as I said, are very, very desirable, and for good reason. These are proper Aston Martin rivals, and in some cases, these are actually more powerful than their equivalent Aston Martins. This is more powerful than a DB9, significantly more powerful than a V8 Vantage, or a DB7, so it's a very well-placed car if you're looking for performance, and it is savagely quick. For me, the 5-litre R is one of those cars which I think people expect me to love more than I do. I like it, but to me, because the 4.2 already feels so well balanced, I don't really personally need the additional power and performance. So it's purely a personal preference thing. If, though, you do want performance, absolutely go for the R. And the R has the key advantage over the ones which we're about to talk about, and that is, of course, a cheaper price and better availability. If cost is not an issue for you, though, then we'll move on to our next one, because this, of course, is one of the big daddies, the 5-litre XKRS. The vehicle which is very visually distinct from all of the others because it has that much larger, more pronounced nasal area on the front with that huge carbon fibre chin splitter, most famously known in, of course, that gorgeous French racing blue, with a very distinct and large rear spoiler as well, which some people might not be a fan of. This is most of the time the ultimate XK that you'll be able to find, because technically the top of the tree is the XKRS GT with the white paint, black stripes, extra canyons on the front, extra chin splitter, huge rear wing. That is, the Porsche GT2 RS of Jags, but good luck finding one of those, and I can't even remember the last time I saw one for sale, so expect prices to be probably in the region of 100 grand, maybe even more. So that's the one to go for if you really want the ultimate Jag, but even then, good luck finding one. These ones are much more attainable. They're still rare though, still exclusive, and still a lot more expensive than most of the others. For these RSs, you should be expecting to enter the market at a minimum of 35 grand, probably more like 45, sometimes even 50,000. So it really is the XK more for somebody who's looking to spend serious money on an XK. In fact, in some cases, used Aston Martin money on an XK. What you do get, though, is a beast. 542 horsepower, de-restricted top speed up around 186 miles an hour, 0 to 60 drops to around 4.2 seconds. We are getting at this point precariously close to being an unarguable supercar. Now, to me, I still wouldn't quite call it a supercar, but it definitely ticks many of those boxes, and if you're looking for savage performance, if the price doesn't matter to you, and if you really do want that beast of an XKR, then the RS 5 litre is pretty much the one for you. Unless, of course, you can find the GT, as I said earlier on. Now, in addition to these, there are other variations, other specs that you should potentially look at as well. For example, for both the 4.2 and the 5 litres, you can find the portfolio versions. Those have a little bit more of an emphasis on being a bit classier, a bit more luxurious, a bit of extra trim and accessories. So that's really down to you. Portfolio is a worthwhile investment if you plan to have it as more of a kind of Bentley style experience, whereas if you're looking for more of a sports car experience, then I wouldn't really say a portfolio is necessary for you. For something like an XK60, well, those are an interesting one, very unique bodywork on that one. I'm not personally a huge fan of the design on that car, but I could see why people would like it. Kind of reminds me of like an XK by Zagato kind of thing. And then of course you've got others like the 75 edition, which is quite visually distinct with 2 stripes going down the bonnet area. I believe that one also has its speed limiter raised also, but overall that is essentially everything you need to know. So of course, as I said, there are further variations, special editions, portfolio or otherwise. There's the open top versus hard top debate, but ultimately those are the main bases for you to consider. So I'd like to hope that, if nothing else, if you are completely new to the idea of an X150 aluminium bodied XK Jag, then this may have given you a better idea of what route to go down. Mostly depending on your budget. And secondarily to that, depending on what kind of performance and driving style you're looking for. My favourite, as I said, is the 4.2 RS. The ultimate one overall is the 5 litre RS. And in my opinion, the best value is the one that I owned, the 4.2R. But ultimately, that's it for my thoughts on the Jag XK overall in the X150 shape. And if this video is popular enough, I may well do one for the X100s, which is the older shape of XK as well. Of course, stick around for that if you are interested. And if you are brand new to the channel, I would urge you to check out the other content which I've made for these, from individual reviews to showdowns and to my own ownership experience, wherein in those videos I get even more into the nitty-gritty details of what it's like to live with one, own one, and compare them to each other. But if you would like to see more automotive content, even other Jaguars and plenty of other car reviews as well, even some of its rivals, which you might want to take a look at also, such as the Maserati Gran Turismo and maybe others too, then of course you should check out the Beards and Cars playlist here on the channel. Until next time, I'll see you then, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.